Miss Carrie here from Miss Carrie's Creations. I'm joining the creative design team for another Love Your Stash challenge. This challenge started back in February, and we have been working throughout the year to use up some of the items in our craft stash. We would love it if you joined us in this challenge. This is the kit I'm going to be using today. It is from fall 2020. My goal this month is to use up some of my scrapbooking kits before the new ones arrive in September. The first thing that I'm going to do is flip over the pages. I wanted the floral design to be at the top, and I wanted the black design to be at the bottom. So now I'm just going to arrange my photos on this background. There are two photo mats that are pre-printed on the background. So I'm going to need to work around those pre-printed photo mats, and I'm going to be using some of the photo mats that came with the kit and try to figure out how to make them all work together with all of the photos that I have of my daughter during a bridal photo shoot. Now that I have the photos in the spots where I plan to place them, I'm going to add some paper strips at the top. This is going to balance out that black pattern paper strip that's along the bottom. And I love the look of the fall script. It just adds a little bit of elegance to the page. So once again, I start playing with the photos and the photo mats. I'm struggling a little bit with those pre-printed photo mats. I can't quite get everything to balance out. So I decided to just bring in a patterned paper strip to place over on the left side of the layout to help anchor those two 4x4 photos. So I fell in love with Close to My Heart paper about 25 years ago, way before I became a maker. Now, the reason I love the pattern papers in Close to My Heart is because they are practically timeless. The papers I'm using, I believe, are from 4, 5, or 6 years ago, yet all of the patterns and colors are still playing well together. So you saw me add a little bit of French vanilla cardstock around those 4x4 photos, and then I lined up the pre-printed photo mat with the cut photo mat over there on the right side. And now I'm going to be using this heart-shaped zip strip as some accents on the page. Not only are these hearts in fall colors, but they also will match the overall theme of the layout. So here I am doing some pretty precise measuring by using my fingernail to mark where I need to cut this zip strip. I'm going to be adding it up above those two 4x4 photos. Now you probably noticed that I added some zigzag stitching across the page. I did this off camera so that you did not have to watch me add those stitches. So now that I've figured out where the other photos are going to go, I want to focus on my focal point photo. So I'm going to add a little patterned paper behind it, and I'm going to mat the photo in scarlet red cardstock. This is going to match some of the other scarlet colored elements on the page, and it's going to draw your eye to that focal point photo. Now I also matted this photo in French vanilla cardstock just to give it a little bit of a buffer between all of the fall colors in the photo, that scarlet cardstock, and the pattern paper. Those brown leaf patterns are pretty bold and a bit busy, so I only used a tiny bit of pattern paper behind that photo. Alright, now that all the photos are in place, I am going to start using those leaf die cuts that came with the kit to embellish these two pages. So you're going to notice as I add these leaf die cuts to the pages that I'm duplicating the leaf colors on both sides. So if I add a set of red leaves to the left side, I'm going to replicate those leaves over on the right side, and I'm going to form a visual triangle between all of the red leaf images. I'm also adding some wood leaf shapes from my stash to this layout. If you take a look at the photos, there's some beautiful aspen and birch trees in the background, and these wood shapes bring out some of those natural elements. I don't know how well you can see it here in the video, but those leaf die cuts have a line of stitching right down the center. Off camera, I added a little bit of hand stitching on all the leaf die cuts in this kit because I love the texture that stitching brings to a layout. So at this point, I was starting to question my decisions. I decided to dig out those blue shaded leaves that came with the kit and use them in the cluster over on the right page. And to be honest, I wasn't quite sure if they were going to fit with the overall theme of this layout. I was using them to try to cover up those pre-printed journaling lines that were on the background page. So while I'm finishing adding the leaves to the layout, let me tell you a little bit more about these photos. Back in fall of 2020, my daughter was asked to model a bridal gown for Avril Marie out of Rye, Colorado. And the photographer who took these photos, Mile High Captures, was planning on sending them in to Rocky Mountain Bridal magazine. Now, there were a few complications because of COVID, so they were never published in the magazine, but they were published on a couple of websites and social media platforms. I loved seeing my daughter in this dress, but I will have to tell you that when my husband first saw these photos, his first reaction was, "Wow, that's a lot of leg," which still makes me giggle. Now, I am excited to say that these two were engaged this year, so we're going to have an actual fall wedding next year. So instead of some faux wedding photos, I will have some real wedding photos with some beautiful colors in the background. So now that you know a little bit more about these photos and my husband's funny reaction, let me tell you what's going on here. I've decided to replicate that heart border over on the right side of the layout. And then I added a little tab that says practice. Now at the very end, you're going to see that I've removed it because I don't feel like it fits the layout. You also saw earlier that I had that little acorn icon. That came with the kit, but I didn't quite feel like the acorn was a good fit, but I needed something in the center of those two photos on the right side. So I've dug through my stash and I found a bunch of paper flowers. And I'm wrinkling them all up and layering them together, and then I'm laying them on the layout to form a visual triangle. I wanted to add some more wood elements to the page. I found this "Love This" title with an arrow, and I'm going to adhere it below the focal point photo. On the right side, I wanted that flower to look a little bit fuller. So I've grabbed some small cream flowers. I'm folding them in half, and then I'm adhering them behind that large flower to make it appear like small blooms that are coming up behind it. All right, so now I'm back home. I want you to take a look at the original kit design once again, and then we are going to go ahead and finish up this layout. Now, this is how I designed the two pages with the white space in the middle. When my daughter came over and took a look at the layout, she swapped the pages and said, no, the white space should be around the sides. So I'd really like to know your opinion as to which way you like these two pages to lie next to each other. I want to add a title that tells you what these photos are about. So I've grabbed some acrylic letters and I'm going to be creating the title "Model Shots" below some of those photos. Now, these acrylic letters are only available to consultants. If you would like me to get some for you, go ahead and put a comment down below. After placing down the letters for the title, I typed up some journaling. I typed this up in Microsoft Word, and then I printed it out on vellum using my printer. And then I've gone ahead and I've torn one edge of it, and I'm just going to be tucking one side underneath that brown patterned paper so that the adhesive doesn't show. And then I'm just going to tuck a couple of corners underneath those leaves to help hold it down. Before I adhere those acrylic letters down, I've gone ahead and I've placed a piece of Post-it tape along the bottom of the layout. This creates a line for me to place those letters on so that I know that they're nice and straight. It's difficult to see, but there is a light pencil mark in the center of that Post-it tape, and that's helping me with the spacing. I've also discovered that a pair of tweezers comes in handy to hold these letters and place them down on your layout. I also like using the Tombow Mono adhesive because it has a little bit of leeway before it dries completely, so I can wiggle my letters around if needed before they are permanently adhered to the page. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the completed layout. Like I said, this was a Craft with Heart subscription layout that I altered just a little bit using some paper scraps and other items I had within my stash. I did make a few changes to the layout once I was finished. I ended up removing that heart pattern strip over there on the right side. It just wasn't working for me. I also added some bronze sequins in between all of the flowers, and I also got rid of that practice tag because it didn't quite fit the rest of the layout and it felt like it was floating in the middle of nowhere. Let's go ahead and take a look one more time at what the original layout looked like. When you take a look at the original layout, you can see all the parts and pieces that I used. I just altered it just a little bit to fit the photos that I had. And that's what I love best about these Craft with Heart kits. You can use them as is, or you can personalize them to match the photos and memories that you have. I want to thank you for joining me today for another Love Your Stash challenge. I hope that you learned a few new tips and tricks for altering your Craft with Heart kits. Now don't forget about that special bonus this month. When you subscribe or renew, you do get a free stamp set. This month, Erin and Katie created a few Love Your Stash videos for you. If you would like to view those, you can go ahead and click on either one of those links. While you're at it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any future video tutorials. I hope you have a wonderful week. I can't wait to see what you create.